Ruhl, aka MegaBlitzz. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the top 8 decks from our most recent regionals. Now, honestly, we're pumped to go over these decks because I did not expect some of them to be in top 8, let alone even win the entire tournament. But before we jump into those deck lists, don't forget to leave a like, smash the subscribe button, because I really do appreciate every single one of your guys' support. Alright, let's jump in to those deck lists. Alrighty guys, and here we are with that 8th place list. Before we jump in the list though, something important to know is that the only reason I'm doing the top 8 and not top 16 is because usually the further out away from the US that they go for the regionals, the longer it takes Limitless to get all the other lists after top 8 uploaded, which is totally fine. I totally get it. So I figured, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do the top 8 because I want to get this uploaded by Wednesday, so I'm actually recording this on Tuesday. I tried to wait as long as I possibly could, and I was like, I want to get this done, so here we are with that. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys prefer top 8 or top 16, and then we'll kind of go from there. But for the list here, we got DTE Mew. Now, to go over some of the things that I like about this list is I like the 4 copies of Lost Vacuum. I think 4 copies of Lost Vacuum in Mew decks is very important because you can bump your own path if you need to draw cards with Fusion Strike system. I also think it's very important because you need to sometimes bump your opponent's path to the peak as well, and sometimes even like removing Bravery Charms and things of that nature can be very beneficial because then you don't have to use much power tablets to attack with your Mew VMAX. Now, thing I don't like about the list is I think 3 Forest Steel Stones is a little too much. I would prefer 2 copies of Forest Steel Stone and then maybe an additional copy of like a Nest Ball or maybe a Feather Ball even. Honestly, even like a 4th Grabber I think would be pretty unique. I think Grabber is a perfect card for Mew. It's kind of more of the control deck in the format right now besides Snorlax Stall. So, not shocked to see it here. We all have talked about this, and I've said this so many times. Mew is a powerhouse in the format, and it will continue to be a powerhouse in the format until it leaves in the next 6 months. It's just what it's going to be, and that's totally okay. Alright, so jumping into our 7th place list here, we got another DTE Mew list. Now, this one is a little more spread out. We got, you know, Professor Turo Scenario in this list. We got a Super Rod up in here. We got Hisuian Heavy Ball in this list. So I think it's something that I do like more. I think I like this list just a little bit more than the 8th place one. Things I like: Professor Turo Scenario, 4 Lost Vacuum. Once again, I think 3 Forest Steel Stones is just a little bit too much. I would rather cut this and maybe go to a second Box of Disaster, or even just, I don't know, they have a second Nest Ball in here, so I think just cutting this to a second Box of Disaster is perfect. I still feel like 3 Forest Steel Stones is a little too much. But if it does make sense you play 3 copies, because if you're trying to set up as fast and like full as you possibly can on your first turn, then being able to have that Seal Stone is very important. I think also Avery, because we saw it in the first list here, that I think Avery is a perfect card also in this list. Draw 3 cards, and if you do, then your opponent has to discard down to 3 Pokemon on their bench. So that really can disrupt a lot of decks like, you know, Lost Box and the Snorlax Stall decks and Miraidon and like Charizard, like the decks that get that full bench setup, like even Gardevoir sometimes can really bet, like a nice timed Avery can really put you in a good spot. But not shocked to see Mew again in top 8. It's a good deck. I've played it for the first time recently. That was tons of fun. I went to sudden death with it actually, and that was the first time I got to experience sudden death mode in the TCG live game. I will say I am definitely ready for Mew VMAX to leave in the next 6 months. People still play it, people still do well with it, and it makes sense. It's such a powerhouse, it's so good. I also think Professor Turo's Scenario is a really good add to this because it allows you to pick up that Mew VMAX. So if it's damaged to get ready to get KO'd, you can just save those 3 prizes from being taken with you if you can time it nicely. So good list here. Moving on to 6th place here, we got a huge, big, like, toolbox Charizard EX list, I would say. It's got 3 different types of Charmanders. It's got that Blazing Destruction Charmander. It's got the Ember Charmander for the Gardevoir matchup. It's got the 60 HP Charmander with Heat Tackle. I think at that point, you just cut that 60 HP Charmander. You just make it the 71. I've kind of become more open to playing the Ember Charmander, but I truly think that playing this 60 HP Charmander, this one here, is just not needed. Just add another one of the Blazing Destructions ones, because Path of the Peak is makes your life miserable. 2 Charmeleons is a little ridiculous. You only need 1. 3 Charizard EX makes sense. You got this 1 off Bidoof, which makes sense because I guess you're trying to save yourself from like Sableye and such. But Bidoof, barrels, you got Radiant Charizard. Delphox V is a really cool card in this list because Magical Fire, 120 damage, put 2 energy attached to Pokemon in the Lost Zone. This attaches 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so you can potentially snipe things off the bench with that Delphox. And they also got the Jirachi to kind of protect themselves from Sableye. So my guess is they really must have been worried about Lost Box going into this, because you got the 70 HP Bidoof, you got, you know, your Jirachi in the list, you got like Delphox, I would even say is a really good card for like Lost Box matchups. So they must have been really worried about Lost Box, or maybe even Entei Iron Valiant potentially with like the 70 HP stuff. But pretty good list that's playing the Technical Machine Evolution, which says, Evolution, choose up to 2 of your bench Pokemon. For each of these Pokemon, search a card that evolves from that Pokemon and evolve it. So now you can't skip evolutions, right? So you can't go Charmander to Charizard. You got to go Charmander to Charmeleon, which maybe is why they're playing the 2 Charmeleon with the Evolution TM. Not too sure about it here. But just a bunch of one-ofs. You got like 1 of Research, 1 of Terror Scenario, you got 1 Lost Vacuum, 1 Counter Catcher, 1 Rope, 1 Search, 1 Rod, 1 Force Sealstone, 1 Band, Defiance, and Vitality respectively. And then you got 1 Lost City, 1 Jet, 1 Collapse Stadium. So a lot of one-ofs in this list, and that's totally okay. I don't dislike this Charizard list. It's very toolboxy instead of the very straightforward Charizards that we've been seeing where it's like, all right, get set up, start punching face with Charizard, that's the game. But this one seems like it's trying to do a little bit of each, which I don't dislike. I just would rather play the preferred, go straight for very linear Charizard lists that we have seen. But I like what I'm seeing. The one thing that I don't like is I think Vitality Band is a card that you could just cut. The attack this Pokemon is attached to do 100 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So you do 10 more. Like Defiance Band makes sense because if you have more prizes remaining than your opponent, you do 30 more. So like if you're already ahead, then it's kind of nice, especially if you're playing like the mirror match potentially and they get that first KO. I just think Vitality Band is such a weird card to have in this list. Like I can't think of anything that it would benefit really. Like Charizard's already doing 180 base, and then the more prizes they take, they do 30 more damage. You do like 120, but even then, I don't really know. I guess like maybe you could put it on like this Radiant Charizard and have it make sense. But even then, like, what's 260? It feels weird. The math doesn't quite make sense in my head. So I would probably just cut the Vitality Band and just pop in something else. Honestly, if you're going for a toolbox style Charizard list, you could probably just do like maybe another Counter Catcher, maybe a second Lost City. I would even honestly just cut this Vitality Band and go to 8 Fire Energies is something I would personally do, because Charizard is very tight on energies as is because of the Infernal Rain ability that Charizard does have. So I would probably just cut the Vitality Band for Fire Energy, but it would make sense if someone cut the Vitality Band for something else in this like one-of list we got going on. But pretty cool to see a Charizard like list like this popping up in our top 8. All right, top 5. This was Tord Reklev's list, and this list was super interesting to me. It's very toolboxy again. A lot of the Lost Box decks we've had recently are very straightforward in what they're trying to do. We had like Lost Sign Kyogre, which was trying to attack with like Dragonite, Raikou, and Kyogre, right? And then you have, you know, Lost Radiant Charizard. That's just trying to attack with Radiant Charizard and your Sableye and Cramorant. So then you have like Lost Tina, Lost Gudra. But this is like Lost Box Toolbox, I guess? I don't even know, man. Like, you got 1 of Kyogre, you got 1 Roaring Moon EX, 1 Iron Hands, 1 Palkia V, 1 Palkia V-Star, and you're playing 4 different energy types. And this list looks like it's super fun. I mean, there's not anything I would change about the list. If I could pick one thing that I might want to tweak with, I think I would go to 2 Pokegears and pop in another Sableye. I feel like Sableye is just too good of a card to not play 2 copies of, but it also makes sense to play 1 copy because the Jirachi is going around. So you could cut a Pokegear potentially for maybe like, I don't know, you could even get like another energy recycler in here, maybe another Pal Pad. I think honestly another Pokestop would be pretty good. That's just kind of my thought. Honestly, you could even cut the Pokegear for like a Lost Vacuum, because you do have some abilities that you need to be going on. Like, Star Portal is very important in this list because you can pop all the energies onto your Palkia or your Kyogre or even Greninja potentially. And like, so that ability is very important in the list. It's kind of your V-Star power that you use in the game instead of using like Forest Steel Stone. Like Lost Tina uses Star Requiem, right? Like you have, you know, Turbo Lost Box with this Forest Steel Stone, and that's kind of how that one works. But this list is super cool, and I'm very excited to have like a Toolbox Lost Box decks back again. I actually had someone comment on one of my more recent videos about like, hey, you know, can you think of any Toolbox Lost Box lists? And I was like, at the time, this list didn't exist, and then it came out, and I was like, this is it. This is the list. So if you're watching this, that's definitely the list I'm talking about. This is what I would go with. This is like the closest Lost Box Toolbox deck you'll be able to get, I feel like. So very cool. Tord Reklev popping off with this super cool Lost Box list. Very interesting to see him drop off Gardevoir, but gotta try new things from time to time, right? All right, going into our fourth place here, top 4, we got Radiant Charizard with Pidgeot. Now, this is the Charizard list that we're super used to seeing, right? Because it's got, you know, the Charizards, the Pidgeots, the Rotom's a little spicy in it. You got Avery, which is a little spicy. I just still feel like Vitality Band is not necessary. I think you could cut it and be fine. I still don't know why they're playing it, but if I could think of why they would play it, I don't know. I wish I knew. I also want to point out, playing the 90 HP Charmeleon is a choice. I think it's a wrong choice, but it's a choice. You play the 100 HP Charmeleon because the moment that your opponent goes, all right, boom, you don't have a Manaphy out, or we've already KO'd your Manaphy, Moonlight Shuriken, Greninja, KO Charmander or Pidgey, and then, or like your Mew, and then KO Charmeleon. You don't play the 90 HP Charmeleons. You just don't do it, okay? Once again, I think the 3-way Charmander thing is so odd. I just change this to this. Like, change this 60 HP Charmander with Heat Tackle to the 70 HP one with Blazing Destruction. But I like to see 8 Fire Energies in here. I honestly, if I were to be playing Charizard, I think I would play like 9 or 10. Just, I like to have that more energy, because sometimes I do like to get a little reckless and I Ultra Ball away energies from time to time. I've been doing it a lot with like Chien-Pao, because I've been playing Chien-Pao a lot recently. So things I like the Jirachi. The Rotom is very spicy in the early game because that instant charge. I like the Avery. I don't like the Vitality Band in the list. I think 2 Lost Vacuum might be a little much. I think 1 is probably okay. I think you go like 1 Lost Vacuum and like 2 Super Rod. That's just me, because a lot of the times you get things like your Jirachi or your Manaphy's KO'd, or even like your Charmanders early on, and being able to Super Rod them back in, I think is very important, especially if like you only have 2 Pidgeys, right? So if one's in the prize and you can't get it yet and they KO the first one, well, you're going to want to get that Pidgeot set up somehow. So, I don't know. It's really hard sometimes to manipulate and change the lists of heavy rare candy decks like Chien-Pao and Charizard, because it plays Pidgeot. So you have to play 4 rare candy to be able to evolve into these things. So I like the list. A couple things I would change was the Vitality Band and stuff like that. I think going to 1 Lost Vacuum would be okay, and then going to like an additional Super Rod I think would be kind of nice. Avery, spicy. The Rotom V with the instant charge, draw 3 cards and then your turn ends, is very, very spicy, and I love to see that. All right, coming into our 3rd place list here. I love to see this because I played Palkia V-Star so much when Shady Dealings Drizzile was in. I had a lot of copium trying to play Palkia even after that and trying to get it to work, and it just didn't until Chien-Pao came out, and then Chien-Pao revived Palkia a little bit. Cyrus Davis took it to Worlds and took like 9th place playing Palkia. This list is very, very cool. I have been saying this for quite some time now. A lot of people that were playing Palkia lists were not playing Canceling Cologne, and I think that's 100% wrong. I also think a lot of people that are playing Chien-Pao with Iron Hands are cutting the Canceling Colognes, and I'm like, no, play 1. Just play 1, because gosh, that Manaphy Canceling Cologne combo just feels too good, and sometimes it can just put you so far ahead in that game when you're playing. So, things that I like a lot, I like the Mew, I like the Suicune in this list, and I love the Canceling Cologne also. I think Earthen Vessel kind of makes sense because you don't have the Baxcaliburs to be able to do things with, so you need to be able to find energies. Trekking Shoes makes sense. I think Collapse Stadium is a good addition as well because you can kind of like remove your Luminions or your whatever. Things I don't like is Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. I haven't said this name and I can't tell you how long. That's probably why I messed it up. Ride of the High King, 10 plus. This attaches 30 damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Max Lance, 10 plus. You may discard up to 2 energies from this Pokemon. If you do 120 damage for each card discard this way. So my thought is that Ice Rider is there to deal with things like Charizard and such because you need to be able to hit big numbers, and I think that's something really important because Palkia's problem with Ice Rider was the only way you can really deal with Charizards is like Chen Pao one-shot them. You can two-shot them with Palkia, but feels kind of bad. So I like the very big spread they have. The Subspace Swell, Ride of the High King, and Blizzard Rondo from that Suicune all do basically the same attack. They calculate how many bench Pokemon are there, and then they do damage based on that. I also think Mew is a crazy good addition to this. You get a free pivot. Its restart ability is really good. And being able to just put energies onto it and genome hacking is such a powerful attack. I love to see it. I think Spiritomb also makes a lot of sense because if you're expecting a lot of like Mew or you're expecting a lot of other decks like Miraidon with like trying to shut off their Raikou Fleetfoots and stuff of that nature, or even Snorlax Stall to stop the Vanishing Wings combo they do with their Pidgeots and put them back in the deck and such, I think Spiritomb makes a lot of sense. Especially because the only V you have that basically have abilities is your Suicune and your Luminion. And if you've already Luminia signed, then Fleetfoot, shutting off your own Fleetfoot isn't that big of a deal. It also just crazy shuts down Mew decks. And if you're expecting Mew to do well, which it did, we had 7th, 8th place, we had 2 Mew decks. So I think this was a good pick. I think this deck is very fun. There's not a whole lot I can say that I don't like about this list. I think Canceling Cologne is probably my favorite thing in this list. I would like to see a Lost City in here somewhere. I think Lost City is just a very good fit for Palkia to be able to put those things away in the Lost Zone so they can't get them back. I don't know what you would cut for it though. You don't want to cut your Melanies because you want to be able to draw a bunch of cards and attach energies to it. So my thought is like maybe you cut a Trekking Shoes or you just like cut this Collapse Stadium for like a Lost City or something. I just think Lost City is a really good card in Palkia. I've had a lot of good moments playing Lost City in my Palkia list. So awesome list here. Ice Rider, a little spicy. Don't dislike it. Don't hate it. Very interesting. All right, moving on to that second place list here. We got another Charizard EX list. Now, I like this list probably the most out of all of our Charizard lists. And the reason I do is because they're playing the 100 HP Charmeleon. They're playing, you're not doing the 3-of-a-kind Charmander. I still think that you cut these 2 Charmanders, go to the Ember one, and you go to 3 of the Blazing Destruction, but we're making progress. Other things that I'd like about this list is there's no Vitality Band. I don't need it. Also, something important to note about this list is it's got 2 copies of Lost City, and it's got that Pidgeot V with her Vanishing Wings. And Vanishing Wings, once you turn to Pokemon on your bench, shuffle it and attach all cards attached to it into your deck. So, being able to put that back into your deck, for a Steel Stone, use it and just shuffle it back in so you don't have a 2 free prize just hanging out is perfect. It saves you a little Minion V for needing to have it attached to it. I think this list is very, very good. You got the Jirachis in there, stop yourself from Sableye. You get that Manaphy, you got Mew in there. And I don't know. I think this list is probably the best Charizard list in top 8. I like it the most. It's very linear. It's very simple to play. And it's consistent. And that's what I like about it. So, congrats to our second place person here. Incredible. All right, going into our first place list, I would have never expected this deck to ever win a regional, but here we are. Snorlax Stall Control taking the W in this regional. Now, I have never once really played a Snorlax Stall deck. I think I tried to play it one time and I had it proxied up in person, in physical card form. And I sat down and it was about 20 minutes into the game and I'm drawing and I'm passing. Draw, pass. Misfortune Sisters when it hits. And, like, it's not fun to play. It's not fun to play against. I get it's a good archetype right now, and it's strong, and the deck is very powerful. And in the right hands, you can take wins with it like this guy did. But it's not my kind of deck, and that's okay. So, some cool things that are going on in this list is we got Luxurious Cape. If a Pokemon, you can only attach this Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box. So it can't have a rule box. But if it is attached, it gets a plus 100 HP. So that Snorlax is getting 250 hit points. That's a big Snorlax. So they're also playing the Trigger Avalanche Crabominable for the 1 energy here. I like that a lot in Snorlax Stall because it gives you a little bit, I want to say, of an alter win condition, because you're kind of trying to lock them out of the game and like slowly stall them where they deck themselves because they can't do anything. But it just speeds up that process a little bit. So they did kind of cut some of the trainers to fit this Crabominable in this in, because a lot of lists are playing like 3 more Misfortune Sisters, which I think is really good. Penny's good, Giacomo's good, Avery's good, Erica's Invitation's good in this list. I think Battle VIP Pass, I don't know, it makes sense why you would want to play it, because if you have it in your opening hand, then you can just bench 2 things and you're ready to go. But like, I don't know, playing one of a card that is dead later on doesn't feel great to me. But you're already kind of capped out at Nest Balls, and you don't really want to play Ultra Balls because you don't want to discard any of this stuff, because like this is a huge control deck. That's why it plays so many 1-ofs. I mean, you got 1 of Avery, Giacomo, Sydney, Peonia, Silene, I think it's how you pronounce it. Teamio's Cheer. You got Capes, Vacuum, Rod, Horn. All of these cards are playing 1-off for a reason, because it's how the deck works. I just think Battle VIP Pass might not be it. I would like to see something else, even if it's just like, you don't want to do Capturing Aroma. I don't really know what you'd put in there. I can't think of anything else. Maybe like a Great Ball, honestly. Like, even I think that would be better, because like, even if you whiff, then at least it's not necessarily a dead card. So I think Great Ball would be better over Battle VIP Pass, but that's just me. Temple of Sinnoh is a really good pick. It shuts down the Mew decks. It shuts down, all of your Fusion Mew. It shuts down your Jet Energies from like Lost Tina and stuff. And like any Lugia decks you might come up against makes a lot of sense. Rapid Box, it really shuts down the Entei Iron Valley and stuff going on. So I like the Temple of Sinnoh a lot in this list, and it makes a lot of sense to me. Especially because like Lost Box and Lost Tina is one of Snorlax's harder matchups because of Jet Energy, being able to just like play it, put up Cramorant, start hitting for 110, then like, all right, move it up. And I'm like, okay, Jet Energy again, start hitting for 110. I've won tons of games by just having Jet Energies and them not having Temple of Sinnoh out on the field because I was able to bump it with my Path to the Peak, or they just didn't have them and they were like prized or whatever. So 3 Temple of Sinnoh makes 100% sense in this list. Echoing Horn makes sense. The person that piloted this list definitely knew what they were doing, because you'd be able to take it with a W all the way to the top. And I just think that this deck has proven itself to be a very big contender in the meta right now, especially with getting Erica's Invitation, I think was perfect for the list. Cape was incredibly good, and my goodness, Counter Catcher was probably the best card that this list got out of anything recently going on. So congratulations to our winner here. Just taking Snorlax Stall from a like tier 2, tier 1.5 deck and putting it on the map. It might be one of those things where you might have to start teching for Snorlax Stall, which is crazy to think. So awesome here, super cool top 8. Alrighty guys, let's jump in to that outro. Alrighty guys, there we are with all of our top 8 decks from our most recent regionals. Let me know down in the comments if you guys prefer the top 8 or the top 16 videos, where I kind of go a little bit more in depth with the top 8, but the top 16 just has a little bit more decks going on. So let me know what you guys think. If you haven't yet, don't forget to leave a like, smash the subscribe button, because I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Peace!